Right on time, and we're live. Hey friends, it's Ernie with the Trader of Futures, and this is going to be a new segment that I'll be doing on a regular basis where I'm going to provide my form of analysis of the market, stocks, various assets, stocks, Forex, Bitcoin, futures, etc. And it's going to be a live show, like all my shows, well, at least over the past couple of months where I've been doing live streams. And hopefully I'll get good audience participation, which I always do. I'll be performing or utilizing things like volume profile. Very rarely will I look at oscillators, moving averages, things like that. What I'm more interested in are patterns. Statistical patterns, ones that have actual edges. I will also look at various fundamentals of various assets, if that's necessary. And another thing that I want to bring into this mix is pairs trading or spread trading. That's where we look at the relationship between two similar assets. And that may be new to a bunch of you, but it's a very effective way of trading. It is a professional way of trading. It's a way of hedging your positions where you are not, okay, sorry, where you're not really subject to the movements in the market. So you're playing the relationship between two very similar assets. And while some people call this pairs trading, and they play it almost without any kind of true strategy involved, what you're really doing is you're playing the relationship, and that would assume that you have an underlying understanding of what that relationship is, or what are the various factors of that relationship. You just don't put two things together and say, oh, well, they went apart 50%, so therefore they're going to come together. That doesn't make any sense. Good example of that is if I'm trading precious metals or energy, like oil versus heating oil, also known as the crack spread. Or if I'm trading something like the knob, that's notes versus bonds. Those are treasuries, playing the yield curve. Having an understanding of the underlying mechanism is vital to understanding the relationship between those two things. So we'll be getting into that as well. I'm not saying that that's happening today. I'm saying that those are the type of things that I want to cover. So a lot of these are relatively advanced topics, but don't feel like, you can't ask me about any particular stock or any particular setup. And I know that many of you also, here's another big difference, that many of you are very focused on very short-term trading, day trading or scalping or things like that. And while I'd be happy to talk about stuff like that, it's not really where I want to focus. I want to focus on more the long term, and that is because the opportunities are greater in the long term, much greater. How you doing, Mr. Trad? So that's what we're going to do here. We're going to focus on medium, long term, and if you were going to put that in terms of a style, you would call that swing trading or position trading. Swing trading being medium term, short to medium term, and longer term being position trading, sometimes also called trend trading. All right. Now, this is a live show, and just like I said, all my other shows, it really relies on you getting in the comments section and voicing your opinion. Now, one of the big things that happened today that I know a lot of people that are following my channel are interested in, and that is Bitcoin broke out of its pattern. And we can see that right behind me here. You may also notice I've included, let's see what's going on here. some artifacts. We'll have to take care of that. We'll figure all that out. It's a lighting issue, I'm sure. Bitcoin broke out of its pattern, and that's what we're seeing right here. We don't need this showing. The lower third. There we go. So, most of you are familiar with when Bitcoin took this huge dump, multi-day dump in late November, and then all of December was in this bigger pattern. Now, a lot of people that are analyzing Bitcoin tried to break this down into other types of patterns. Some people were calling this an inverse head and shoulders, the end of this this bigger pattern. But I've been calling it for what it is for, pretty much since it started here. And that is a big ass bear flag, or now what I call a bear pennant. So in the beginning, we had this feature here in this box. I said, look, it's working out to be a nice bear flag. And then it broke out, went down, it started another bear flag, and then once it made this little rally here, it started to turn into a much larger bear pennant. And of course, these rallies are getting all the Bitcoin faithful all hyped up, thinking that there's more to this. Oh, we're going up, we're going to the moon again. Now, I've also made my case for why it looks like we're entering into a very, very long-term channel here, and that's what is depicted by this gray area. All right. So we broke out of this pennant. Now, a pennant is a continuation pattern. That means that once you break the pennant pattern, the highest likely case is that you will continue the previous trend, and that previous trend obviously is down. Absolutely down, not up. So, and that's exactly what's happening here. Some people today, I heard them calling this a crash. I mean, this is not a crash. Sure, it broke out of the pennant and it broke down, but how can you call this a crash? That's because they are so butthurt on any kind of move down in Bitcoin. They just can't take it. All right, so we're going to go to the peanut gallery here and find out what's going on there. People are starting to come in. Dr. Zayas still wants to know about silver and gold. Not exactly sure what you're looking for in silver and gold. They are precious metals. They have gone up. I'm sure that much of their advancement has been the anticipation of further rate hikes by the Fed. And the Fed is continuing with their rate hikes, and they're alluding to, some people think that they're going to do 3 more this year. Some think they'll only do 2 more. If we're leaning more towards 3 more, then you may see gold and silver continue to rise. If it's towards 2 more, you may see it level off and maybe even pull back a little bit. What's it going to do in the meantime? Probably not much. I think that in general that people are starting to get smart on the Fed, and the Fed is starting to become a little bit more cautious because they are in fact a political organization. Basically to the contrary of what the talking heads will tell you and what the mainstream media is telling you, they are a political organization. And so they're sensitive. They're very sensitive to how people think about them. They want to play nice in the political arena. They want to be able to preserve that political capital. So they have to play nice and make you think like they're doing the right thing. Why is Palladium exploding? That is a really good question. Now I'm going to speculate here because I haven't really looked into it. I used to be a big precious metals trader, trading platinum versus gold, silver versus gold, silver versus platinum, and also the platinum group metals, which would include rhodium and palladium, etc. Now, if palladium is picking up. One thing that I would speculate on, because the vast majority of its industrial use is with combustion engines, you probably have to think that there has been some really good news in the automotive sector, whether it's here locally or abroad, because palladium is the #1 catalyst metal that is used in catalytic converters. In fact, palladium is almost exclusively, that is its, I mean, there's really no jewelry component. There are some other industrial components to it, but palladium is almost exclusively the tool of the automotive industry, where platinum used to be, but platinum now is primarily geared towards the diesel industry, the truck industry. So I would say that palladium is probably exploding. First of all, you have to consider that palladium's available supply compared to platinum is relatively small, and it's in high demand. They may be looking at rhodium as a sort of a supplement. Platinum also, the above ground or mined availability, the supply of platinum, I think, has been largely misstated over the past several years. One of the very interesting things about all these platinum group metals and its stance with gold, for the longest time, for literally forever, platinum was always considered to have a premium over gold, but it hasn't been that way for the past few years. Gold now has a premium over platinum, so we have to sort of change all these colloquialisms and these traditions that we had, where we always considered platinum the more precious metal, or gold being the poor man's platinum, right? It's not that way anymore. Gold is definitely more valuable than platinum. Palladium is starting to make an upcoming into general parlance. People are becoming more familiar with it because it is being used in the automotive industry. So I'm going to speculate and say, and this is just a long-winded, and again, this is, again, sort of demonstrating that you need to have a really solid standing or viewpoint or understanding of the not only the monetary vector, but also the industrial vector of these assets, of these commodities, the precious metals, and they can be traded against one another if you have that understanding, and you can trade that relationship, and they actually produce some very good trades in a statistical arbitrage. So let's find out why palladium is taking off, right? So why don't we let's go to the big Google machine and find out why palladium is in the news. All right, so the very first story that I see here from CNBC, which immediately makes it suspect, because they are part of the mainstream media, and we know that the mainstream media lies all the time. But CNBC says palladium scaled a fresh all-time high on Wednesday after Chinese officials said the government was contemplating policies to increase. What? What are they going to increase? Let's find out. We have to unblock this page, I guess. Pause on this site. Reload. There we go. We got our ad blocker on. All right, it says that palladium scaled a fresh all-time high on Wednesday after a Chinese official said the government was contemplating policies to increase domestic buying of automobiles. See what I told you? Automobiles, the demand is going up for automobiles, therefore it goes up for palladium. While gold was propped up by a falling dollar. Falling dollar because we're raising interest rates. Palladium went up 0.49% to $13,220 an ounce right after noon. Having touched a record high of 1342.43 earlier in the session, the metal is likely to draw strength from a Chinese plan to introduce policies. Jesus. A plan to introduce policies to boost domestic spending. So it's just a plan for policies, and the policies will boost spending. So really, this is off into the future. And of course, we are dealing with futures, and we want to... So, you know, there might be an opportunity here for a backwardation trade. So if future prices, if the near-term futures now have risen faster than the long-term futures, we might see a what's called a backwardation trade, where you can go short the near term and long the long term, and then wait for that to come back to its mean resting. The metal is likely to draw strength. Okay, we're getting an idea that there is a potential trade deal between China and the United States. Oh, this is coming out of the talks that President Trump is having with China. He's going to get them to buy cars, I guess. I don't know. Maybe they're going to make cars over there. I have no idea. And some internal stimulus within China, said Bart Melek, head of commodity strategies at TD Securities. That ultimately means better consumption of vehicles in China, and so the Chinese are going to buy American vehicles. You know, the Chinese are supreme copycats. They have what would appear to be a copy or a replica in their own manufacturing facilities of every American car made. So you go over there and you say, oh, look, there's a Chevy, there's a Pontiac. And when, in fact, they are different brands altogether. They have nothing to do with the American brands. They just look like our cars. Because they're copycats. They don't have a unique thread of intelligence over there. He said, adding that the increased demand comes at a point when the market is already very tight. The metal used in emission-reducing catalysts for vehicles is trading at a premium to gold, and that's palladium. Now, I know in a lot of the old cars, did you know that you could make a ton of money if you go to a junkyard and collect a bunch of catalytic converters and then try to extract all the platinum from there? But now that they have palladium, palladium's worth a hell of a lot more than platinum. So the dollar has been on a back foot this morning, which could be related to a trade talks optimism, and that's given gold a nice reprieve, said Tai Wong, head of base and precious metal derivatives tradings at BMO. All right, is there anything else worth reading here? Tightening by the Fed lends a potentially negative backdrop for bullion that will likely persist in H1 of 2019. Analysts at HSBC said in a note, adding a perceived end to the tightening cycle in the second half. In other words, instead of doing 3 interest rate hikes, maybe only 2, maybe only 1, and possible rate cuts in 2020. Now, why the fuck would they raise interest rates in late 2019 only to bring them back in 2020, as if they were already planning this? A fucking bunch of jamokes. Will likely mean that Fed policy should eventually turn gold supportive. All right, there's your answer. So let's take a look at palladium. Well, we don't have a future. I don't know if we have a future for palladium, so that's going to be a kind of tough. So there you go. There's my look at the gold, silver, and palladium and platinum group metals look. Really, again, there's going to be, I think, some really great opportunities in pairs trading the precious metals. Dr. Zayas wants to continue. Would you use TTM squeeze to try to get into a silver versus gold pairs trade? All right, so now he's getting a little particular, and a lot of people don't know what the TTM squeeze is. And all it is really a set of indicators that are widely used for pairs trading. Sometimes they can be used for pairs trading, and I find that and mostly because of the linear regression slope, and particularly if it's tuned to the difference, the notional difference between two pairs. So like between gold and silver, if you do the notional difference or take the dollar value of the contracts and subtract them, and then you track that, and then use the TTM squeeze or the regression slope to measure its momentum, its positive or negative momentum, that is probably one of the more useful tools for trading pairs. And Dr. Zayas knows this from way, way back when. But I would use TTM squeeze, but I'm not really a big fan of the overall strategy behind it, because I think it's a bunch of bullshit, to tell you the truth. Perpetuated by John Carter, another bullshit artist. Mr. Trad says, looks like Trump's getting another SCOTUS pick. Yeah, that's because I believe Ginsburg on life support, or is she dead? I'm sorry for being so callous. But yeah, I mean, she could be dead. Who knows? She's certainly not working from home and making judicial decisions and having her, clerks run around her house. That's not happening. Nick says, China buying up all the palladium for their war machines. No, I don't think so. I'm trying to think of, well, what would they use the palladium for their war machines? Dr. Zayas says they should make a new Austin Powers movie with a new character, Platinum Member, who gets defeated by Gold Member. Yes, that's a good one. I like that. 33 mag, 3,300, a possible fake pump. Be aware, people! All right, so a fake pump at 3,300, obviously referring to Bitcoin. So you're saying that there's going to be a fake pump at 3,300. Of course, if there's a pump, we know what we do. We short that friggin' rally! We short it! We short it until it fucking hurts! It's the only sane strategy for Bitcoin, to short that friggin' rally until it hurts. Anthony Bricado, a unique thread, or if they ain't broke, why fix it? All right, it's a little, I'm trying to make sense of that. Did you say something earlier, Anthony, that, no, I guess you didn't. Mr. Trad says that Tone Whipsaw Vase is now bullish again. He's going to be bullish after a very high probability bearish pattern has broken to the downside. Perfect. Perfect time, because I'm sure he's using his Tone Vase bullshit TD Tom DeMark sequential indicator, right? And it told him that he's probably at a 9, and 9s are, have some kind of affinity or a special sauce. It's like cum juice to him. Fucking Tone Vase. Hey Ernie, I know you own gold, but do you own physical gold? If yes, what is your recommendation for where to acquire? I own physical gold, but not bullion. I own a lot of scrap gold. Got a big box of scrap gold. What is your recommendation for where to acquire? I like AppMex. I mean, they're okay. I also own gold through goldmoney.com. And there, you can acquire it without actually holding it. So they'll hold it for you, or you can have them send it to you. And the transaction prices are really superior, only 0.5%. And on top of that, you can get, I don't have it on me, you can get a debit card, and you could buy things with gold. It's very, very cool. Iceman J, buy direct from the mint. You could do that as well. Out on Bail. That's a great name. Out on Bail. Regarding China copycat, ain't broke, why fix? Well, because they don't have to pay anything extra. Everything is contained. They can create their cheap imitation and then sell it for a premium price. AppMex is the best, according to Mr. Trad. And I did mention AppMex, didn't I? Out on Bail. Why don't you That's a great name. I like that. Why don't you despise Tone Vays? I think what you mean is, why do you despise Tone Vays so bad? In my opinion, he's better than 95% of the crypto analysts. That's because maybe I know more about him than you do. I've been following him longer. I understand the issues better. I understand the bullshit that he's been pulling over most people much better. I have debated him and severely trounced him in the debate. That's why. He does not deserve the status that he has. And while I will agree that he's an okay business analyst, that's all he is. He's a bullshit trader. Oh my God. OMG. Peter's debit card. Oh, he's talking about Peter Schiff. Laughing out loud. How is that working out? Actually pretty good. If you know how to buy gold, and then you can actually make out fairly well. As a matter of fact, that's what I do. I wait for gold to dip. I buy it. And then when it goes up, I transfer it into the debit card. I now have more money than I started off with. Buy gold or a silver mine. Cut out the middleman, says Michael Jones. Yes, and Tone Vays is a scam artist. He charges an ungodly amount of money for his bullshit technical analysis program. Total bullshit. I mean fake. Bullshit. Tone Vays is a faker and a bullshit scam artist. Absolutely. Other than that, he's an okay guy. I kind of like him. Except for the bullshit that he pulls. Will gold ever break out to all-time highs? Absolutely. When? I have no friggin' idea. Iceman says, cool. You buy from Peter, so I'm connecting the dots here. So there really is, you know, yes, Peter Schiff is involved in goldmoney.com, but did you know that also, and this really pains me to say this, George Soros is also involved in that outfit. But that doesn't prevent me from taking advantage of what appears to be a pretty good service. I mean, I've been a customer for a long time. It works for me. I can buy gold with Bitcoin or dollars. I can easily switch it between gold and silver and platinum and palladium. I can take physical delivery of the gold for really low transaction costs. On my birthday, they give me free gold. That's pretty cool. So, yeah, I like goldmoney.com. I'm sure it's got its downside, too. I just haven't found out yet what that is. All right, so we've covered gold, we've covered Bitcoin today. Now, what about the markets? The markets, look. Oh, by the way, the markets are moving up, and there is a particular pattern that they've sported. I already gave my analysis maybe about a week ago, about why I thought we were at the bottom. And now we've had 3 successive up days followed by another pattern that is indicating that we're going higher with a high statistical probability. Again, I'll keep on mentioning statistical probability is where I'm at. I look at patterns that have better than a 1 standard deviation statistical probability of success. Will the dollar have to crash for gold to see all-time highs? No. I mean, when we saw that the dollar and when we saw gold and silver go through that past bubble, I mean, the dollar didn't crash. James Turk started the company. Interesting. Not that I really care. Really don't care. As long as they provide a good service, that's all I really give a shit about. And Mr. Trad, I think that you're absolutely right. Dow to 30K by next year, and much higher. Much, much higher. The doom and gloomers will die. And Bitcoin will still be under 4,000. So let's go to the market and take a look at the E-mini S&P. We'll look at the S&P 500. This is the E-mini futures contract. And what I'd like to point out is this pattern. You see these three successive green, and I called this, you know, at this point, before these past 2 days were there, you can see the arrow that I put up there. Those three green candles in the shape of the third candle is a very high probability continuation pattern. I think it's called an anchor baby or something like that. Let's see. We can go to Bulkowski's pattern site, and let's take a look at where that is. So what we need to do is we need to go to candlestick patterns. Let's go to the visual index. And there it is. Anchor baby. It's called the advanced block. That's the pattern that we see there. High probability pattern. About a 65% chance that it will break up. Actually, they say 64%. And so, if you look at that pattern right there, that's the pattern that we see right there. Banga, banga, banga. And that's when I called it to go higher. And it looks like it's on its way to go higher. We had a good day yesterday. Today, I'm sorry, when I say yesterday, I meant this past session. So today, we moved up higher. Right now, we've pulled back just a tiny bit. But I expect us, and maybe tomorrow that will be a little bit of a pullback, but then maybe Sunday. I have a target of 26.26, and that's actually right there. That's the target. All right, Anthony Brocado, take it easy. He's got to go. We'll watch the cast later. Yes, and Peter Schiff is an annoying perma-bear. He's always calling a market crash. He was spot on in the last one. And I'm sure he'll be spot on in the next one, too. All he has to do is just keep on calling it. And then he'll continue to get invites back to CNBC. Maybe. If we type Bitcoin in the chat, will it direct traffic to you? I don't think so. I'm not sure exactly what that means. But if you're talking about sending money to me, the best way to send money to me is this. Not that you're going to. They should have one for goldmoney.com where someone can just send an arbitrary amount, but you have to be a member. they're not. You really have to be tied into it with that service to do business with other people. Jim Rogers says buy Bitcoin. And what does fucking Jim Rogers know about Bitcoin? Seriously, what does he fucking know about Bitcoin? He knows butkus about Bitcoin. Jim Rogers, Bitcoin. Oh, I wanted to use Bitcoin in my titles. I get it now. So if you type Bitcoin in the chat, will it direct traffic to me? That's a good question. That I don't know. I just assumed that you wanted to send me money. So, yeah, we'll have to look up and see what Jim Rogers thinks about Bitcoin. Well, why don't we do that right now? Well, that's an old one. He has never... Okay, December 19th is the last that I see here. I mean, is there something more recent in the past, say, week? No. In the past month? Yes. But not much. So I don't know where this story's coming from about Jim Rogers. It's obviously not a recent story. Besides, you know, when you get these old farts talking about Bitcoin, and not that I'm not an old fart, but I happen to have been steeped in the technology industry for many years, and I understand this technology, you know, explicitly. Jim Rogers has not. He knows nothing about it. The hot crumbs. Now there's an interesting... Hey Ernie, been signed up to your setups not too long and just getting used to them. My platform I am using does not cover some trades like the futures currency trades. Is it possible to use Forex instead? I wouldn't. What is your platform, first of all? And just pick up a platform that does cover them. I mean, the futures are fundamentally different than the Forex. The futures are the futures contracts on the Forex. So, and we do in fact sometimes have both the futures and the Forex trade of the same pairs trading at the same time. So I would find a platform where you can trade the futures. That's what I would do. You don't want to miss out on that. I mean, that's where a good portion of our trades are going, and that's where you're going to make some good money. So I would definitely focus on that. So if you're in a foreign country and you're doing CFDs or something like that, contract for difference, take a look at Interactive Broker. They require a minimum of $10,000 being deposited into an account to open up a futures account, but that would be a way to go. If you're stateside, you can look at TD Ameritrade. There are a lot of other choices. Plus 500 in UK. I'm not sure what that is. Mr. Trad, Bitcoin will rise again when Jim Cramer pronounces it dead. Yes, using the Jim Cramer contrary indicator. Jake Flake spotted at CBS offices today. He's searching out a job, Jacob. You know, now, you know, when he, I don't know. Jake Flake. Who's Jake Flake? We're not talking about Jeff Flake, right? Hey, Ernie, how about Palladium, dude? I talked about that. That was the very first thing that I talked about. You're late to the party. Talked about it for about 15 minutes. Yeah, I'm still looking for the right platform. Yeah, Interactive Broker, TD Ameritrade. and there's about 30 others that are really good. Alex C. just logged on. Did you cover oil? No. All right, so Jacob, yeah, that's who I thought you were talking about, Jeff Flake. Like I said, he's searching for a job now that he's leaving the Congress. So he's over at CBS hawking for a job. Can you imagine that guy on TV? I mean, shit. Then, well, at least then he'll show his true colors and he'll turn into a full-blown libtard. The basis on it, it's the China deal and the American deal on automobiles is spurring speculation that there's going to be an increase in the automotive market coming out of China, and thereby increasing the demand on palladium. All right. I think this is going to be, I think if I cut this show off right here, this would be a great place to say, this show has been a success. The first. Actually, yesterday was the first. But this is the first one where I have the lower third that makes it official. Live chart analysis and speculation. What am I speculating on? Just about anything. Just about anything. All right, guys. I want to thank you very much. Thank you very much for joining me here today. I'm going to be doing this on a more regular basis. Okay, what platform is good if you have $1,000 to $2,500 to trade futures? Man, that's tough because most futures, that's about what the margin is just to have one contract. That would be kind of tough. There is a product called futuresonline.com. You can also look at, what is the name of that? Simple FX, where you can fund your account in Bitcoin and then trade micro contracts on the futures, but they're not really exactly the same. What is a good entry point to go long the ES? Well, you're a little late to the party here, Dr. Zayas. Why don't you wait until it gets up to 26.26? I think we're talking about a short from there, although that didn't trigger today. I would wait for a pullback and then get in. MDES says that use BitMEX. It's probably similar to Simple FX, where they have some kind of proxy to the futures contract. All right, now we're 45 minutes into this show. I'm going to cut it here. This show will probably, in the future, be 45 minutes to an hour. But I think that we covered some good topics here. I want to thank everybody, and we'll see you next time. Take care.